WEFUNK. We funk.
So they, of course, have a great connection. So it's a big family, a big last waltzy family feel for Thanksgiving, especially as we head into like I mentioned earlier, but of course the great Bob Dylan Beacon Theater Thanksgiving Run residency, which I guess will bring us to our latest installment of a Big LW Jammin' World podcast eyewitness account concert review. A concert review from a man who was there to witness it, which I understand to be a little redundant and probably obvious, but you never know in the world of these webcasts. These assholes on the internet or whatever, you know, they listen to it on Spotify, and next thing you know, they're writing a blog about it, but not here on Big LW's Jammin' World podcast, where I give you eyewitness account, concert reviews, ensures to give you concert reviews from a man who was there to witness them, and that man would be me. And definitely check out some of the other great eyewitness account concert reviews that have gone down this year. Of course, the Wu-Tang 25th Anniversary 36 Chambers album at T5. Of course, the Zappa hologram experience at the Cap. And of course, the entire experience that was Woodstock 50, and as well, I suppose, in honor of Thanksgiving, like I mentioned, and this very Robbie Robertson time of year, as well, be on the lookout for an eyewitness account, a movie review of sorts, as we're giving you a golden ticket for The Irishman on Geeked Up Presents Netflix and Chat, where, of course, one of the other great shows right here on the Big LW Podcasting Network, of course, Geeked Up Presents Netflix and Chat. Go through the Netflix original movie catalog with my man from the Geeked Up show, Devin Barnes, and I guess in honor of Robbie Robertson and Martin Scorsese and The Irishman taking over the movie world, we're going to be Netflix and chatting about it as well. So I guess you're going to get your movie, your Thanksgiving time movie review from Netflix and chat, as well as, of course, a eyewitness account concert review from the Thanksgiving Run residency of the great Bob Dylan, where 43 years after they waltzed last, the boys both still fully at it and in the mix and making us happy. So a very Thanksgiving feel going down. Like I mentioned, very Thanksgiving feel going down here on the Big LW podcast network, but I guess to get us back, officially back into the big eyewitness account concert review of Bob Dylan at the Beacon Theater for what truly was or I guess is still going on, but a epic holiday run residency, as Bob Dylan is giving you 10 shows over the, Thanksgiving kind of layover week here, with the late Thanksgiving, the last week of November, as Dylan is over, November 23rd, all the way through December 7th. Bob Dylan doing 10 shows at the legendary Beacon Theater. This, by the way, for the second year in a row, he's doing a little mini residency. His last year, right around November, late November, as well, he did, I'd say, 6 shows at least. But this year, kicking it up a notch with an extended 10-show residency, which really is a lot of shows, especially for an 80-year-old Bob Dylan, where definitely part of the equation as you go to see Dylan in 2019 here, or as well in 2020, as I guess, as well. He already for next year, as a matter of fact, actually has a very similar extended residency set for Tokyo, Japan. Right, where he's doing like 10 to 13 shows already on schedule at a theater in Tokyo for 2020. So you got to figure a lot more international touring for Dylan in 2020. You remember last summer he did a couple shows in Ireland after the epic Neil Young Dylan mini tour kind of fell apart, and I think wound up being one epic show in West Ireland. But so more international touring for Bob, the man that just does not slow down from the rock star lifestyle. And I guess, however, 10 shows, though, especially in a condensed period of time, is a lot, like I mentioned, really for any artist, especially for an 80-year-old Dylan. So I guess a little bit fortunate to be catching him on the first weekend of the run, where the energy is still as relatively high as it could possibly be, which I guess, like I mentioned, is part of the deal as we head into the end of the 20-teens here. But I guess a little bit more, of a nostalgia-based legacy kind of performance, where I guess he does kind of give you a little bit of a celebration of some of the greatest hits. But by way of the Dylan catalog, there's like literally 100. So you can't exactly count on your favorite song, nor exactly can you count on recognizing your favorite song, if he does indeed decide to play it. Because I guess a late-era Dylan show, or I guess a current-era Dylan show, I should say, kind of really more trademarked for the different arrangements that he does with the songs, where, it might take you, halfway through the song to go, oh, this is positively 4th Street. I got you. Where exactly he doesn't exactly do the album recreation route that a lot of other rock stars go for, but definitely at sometimes wildly different arrangements, sometimes super cool, sometimes not so much. Last year at the show, for example, some of them really different kind of, he's giving you more of a reggae vibe on some of them way more folky, and some of them really work, some of them very experimental, but definitely, a cool way to see some of your favorite Dylan classics, as well, of course, as a lot of Dylan classics that you've never heard from the, just absolutely monumental catalog of work over the last 50 years that he draws from. Right. But I guess really above all else, what you're seeing is an absolute living legend performing his craft, and you really do get a sense of everything that makes Dylan great. It's not exactly, like I mentioned before, not exactly, a melt your face off kind of show. However, definitely super fun to see Bob Dylan, A, still performing, and B, still really giving you, full-hearted, inspired performances. So super, super cool. And I guess if you're a Dylan fan at this, still in 2019, approaching must-see territory. If he comes to your city for 10 shows, especially, given the age and times and all, you gots to make it down to the Beacon to see Bob Dylan, which I guess is another big factor for the show. Always a good reason to go to the Beacon anyway, as I do like to give you a little bit of a rundown on the venue for my Big LW eyewitness account concert reviews, because it is part of the experience. And the Beacon Theater, especially in New York City, if you're a music fan, is definitely something to experience, and part of the experience of a music fan in New York City, where it really is the de facto theater-level music venue in New York City, where it's kind of an interesting middle ground that goes on a little bit between like the theater and arena kind of venue capacity level. Not really, especially a non-outdoor seatings. I guess in the summer you get some a lot of other venues kind of open up seasonally in New York, but not a lot of kind of, like I said, middle ground venues between the arena size and the theater size. So really everything, it seems, kind of below major arena level gets booked at the Beacon, which I guess, like the Radio City Music Hall would be, another kind of venue that probably has, a couple, closer to like a 5,000 seat capacity, I'd say, or 4,500 capacity. However, scarcely used for concerts, since the Dead tore it up on Halloween of 1980. And I guess, scarcely used for concerts as well at this point. Owned by the Madison Square Garden Company as well as the Beacon. So like I said, seemingly all kind of shows get funneled through the Beacon en route, kind of the last stop before the arena level of booking in New York City. And really, for the, long history of New York City, clubs and theaters and just music venues, really over, especially over the last 30 years, the Beacon Theater really has had as rich of a history as just about any New York City music venue all time. Like I mentioned, really, especially over the last, 30 plus years or so, where it really focused more on the live music and has really kind of solidified itself as one of the real great, concert theater experiences in America. The Chicago Theater, the Ryman Auditorium in Nashville, of course the Fox theaters in Atlanta or Denver, or I believe there's a Fox Theater in Portland. All the Fox theaters around the country, but there's a handful of real famed music theaters around the country. The Beacon takes a backseat to no one right here in New York City. And I guess, ironically, however, not opened with music in mind, and like I mentioned, really kind of only doing music, I guess, since the mid-'70s, where I guess initially opened up in 1929 by the Warner Brothers Company. And meant to be a home for the great Warner Brother releases of the time, as I guess at this time it was more of a silent picture show and a picture show kind of world, with all of the great movie theater-esque places in New York. So opened up to be a grand movie theater, and kind of operated as a grand movie theater, like I mentioned, until the 70s, when they started doing concerts And since then, it has gone through some ownership changes and renovations and a transformation from a picture show theater to a live music venue, and I guess kind of ultimately in the early 2000s, like I mentioned, getting officially purchased by the Madison Square Garden Company, who as well, like I mentioned, of course owns Madison Square Garden and Radio City Music Hall here in New York City. And they purchased the Beacon in the early 2000s, then did a big renovation as well that had the place shut down for a year or so in the early 2000s, like I said. However, since then has been opened up with all of its glamour and glory, as it does have a very kind of gaudy, royal, almost Roman kind of feel. I believe the term is Art Deco, although I could be totally wrong, but perhaps an Art Deco kind of feel. Where I guess the stage is kind of like sandwiched between two huge statues of like Greek goddesses or something, and there's big kind of almost Spartan-esque kind of shield and artillery kind of statues on each side of the stage. All right, which is kind of outlined by a very regal gold and red kind of paneling above the stage, which has an all-time classic theater curtain, where I don't know what it is about the velvet at the Beacon, but one of the great theater curtains that you'll ever see. And I'm only being half ironic, because there really is something amazing about those goddamn curtains at the Beacon. But it really does give you a very kind of, like I said, a gaudy, royal kind of feel to the stage. The seating, it's kind of a three-tiered seating situation with a very big orchestra, all right, as well as a very big balcony with a very small lodge sandwiched in between. Not exactly the best for the sight or the sound, where the sound definitely gets muffled by the, huge balcony above you as well. The sight lines at times obstructed, especially if you're in the back of the loge. However, I'd say a solid 75% of the balcony and orchestra, however, very solid seats. So, especially if you know where you're going, not relatively few bad seats in the Beacon. However, if I can give you my suggestion, stay the hell out of the loge, unless you're the first couple rows, mind you, in which case center loge, first couple rows, pretty bomb. However, the rest of the loge, enter at your own risk. However, great sound all throughout the balcony, as well as a great feel on the orchestra floor. All right. The list of shows, however, is endless. All right. I guess starting in the mid-'70s, like I said, with the Grateful Dead, who played there in '76, as well. Further played there in, I guess it was, 2011 or 12, with your boy Big LW in the building. And then, mind you, Bob Weir and Wolf Brothers back in 2018, just last year. Bob Weir brought Wolf Brothers back, all right? So the Dead's been playing there since '76 in different incarnations. Fish played at the Beacon in '94, famously, kind of like I said, where kind of New York City's last, one of the last stops before the arena level. Fish proved the point by playing in the Beacon in early 1994 before bringing it to the Garden for the first of many before the first of many New Year's Eve runs at Madison Square Garden, a place they will be heading back to ring in 2020, and have pretty much played it almost every year that they've been a touring band since. But so Fish all the way back to the Beacon in '94. Trey Band, mind you, back to the Beacon a couple years ago, and I guess it was 2014 or 2015. Trey came back to the Beacon with your boy Big LW in the building, mind you. As well, last year, Trey bringing it back to the Beacon with a Trey Band performance after the grand debut of the Trey documentary as part of the Tribeca Film Festival. If you remember that whole scenario. So I guess, some 25 years of history between Trey and Fish and the Beacon Theater. And like I just mentioned, the Tribeca Film Festival, as well, mind you, the site of the epic Spinal Tap reunion at the Tribeca Film Festival, with Elvis Costello coming out and playing Gimme Some Money with the Boys, with your boy Big LW in the building, mind you. As Trey, not the only great show at the Beacon, as part of the Tribeca Film Festival, which is just another great part of the rich history of the Beacon. But outside of music, just an beyond amazing resume of amazing, especially comedy experiences, as George Carlin filmed several of his famous comedy specials at the Beacon. The Conan O'Brien 10th anniversary live show at the Beacon, as well as Conan has come back several times. The Night of Too Many Stars, the first Night of Too Many Stars with Jon Stewart hosted at the Beacon. The New York City Comedy Festival has taken up yearly residency with shows at the Beacon. And I guess really residencies, kind of the specialty of the Beacon, like I mentioned, kind of with its smaller capacity size, where you're sitting at like a less than 3,000, 25 to 2,800. But like I mentioned, kind of the last stop before the 10,000 plus size of an arena. Perfect opportunity to throw 6 to 10 dates up, which is really what a lot of artists do at the Beacon. Of course, famously Steely Dan, hilariously enough, have hosted many residencies, none of which your boy Big LW in attendance for. However, I did, attend one of the hilarious Mariah Carey Christmas tradition residencies at the Beacon, as that went on for a couple years. Mariah Carey bringing her epic Christmas show to the Beacon. One year, your boy Big LW in attendance, and it was fucking hilarious. Black chicks losing their mind all over the place, with Mariah belting out Silent Night. It actually really was a super cool show. A holiday spirit flying high, obviously, for the Mariah Carey Christmas Spectacular residency at the Beacon. Of course, another fave of the Big LW Jammin World podcast. But of course, Tedeschi Trucks Band have their own history, as well as their own plaque in the halls. As I guess just this last run, Tedeschi Trucks officially getting a plaque in the halls of the Beacon after their 34th through 39th performance at the Beacon, and over 100,000 tickets sold after debuting at the theater in 2011. All right, 3 shows in 2012, up to the current, 6-show structure ever since 2016. all right, with your boy Big LW in attendance for, I'd say, at least a solid 10 of the 39 anyway. All right. As well, the last 2 years, your boy Big LW in attendance for shows of the aforementioned Dylan residency. And then, of course, there was the Allman Brothers, who, of course, probably the most synonymous name, perhaps, with any venue in the history of New York City. Nothing says spring is here like the Brothers at the Beacon, where from 89 to 2014, the Allman Brothers played 238 shows at the Beacon Theater, all right, from 92 to 2012, all right, so for 20 years, minus 2010, where, like I mentioned, the theater was closed for renovations, and I believe the Allman Brothers went up to the United Palace Theater in Harlem, but anywhere from 10 to 20 shows every March. Over the course of that 20-year span, they as well recorded Peekin' at the Beacon in the, I guess, early 2000s, as well as the Evening With, as well as the An Evening With the Allman Brothers series, you know, set 1 and 2 albums, both recorded the at the Beacon in the, you know, Derek Warren era. So, you know, mid to late 2000s for the Allman Brothers there. Just, you know, countless tradition of amazing shows. I guess all-time epic run, March '09, where in celebration of their 40th year anniversary, all right. The Allman Brothers celebrated over 15 shows with just an absolute, a last waltzian resume of guests that sat in over the 15 shows, however. All right. Starting, I guess, in honor of the Last Waltz and the band, but starting with Levon Helms, sitting in with them on the opening night of the run, okay. Over the course of the run, not only did they give you a show where they played the first set, the Allman Brothers Band, the second set, Idlewind South, and then encoring with Statesboro Blues, so they played the first album, the second album, and then encored with Statesboro, the first song off the third album. So not only was that a show, all right, with no guests, however, over the course of the run, they welcomed Taj Mahal, Buddy Guy, Bruce Hornsby, Boss Skaggs, Robert Randolph, Sheryl Crow, John Popper, ZZ Top, Kid Rock, the Los Lobos, the Asbury Jukes. The horn section from the Asbury Jukes came down. All right. How about Susan Tedeschi? How about a young Susan Tedeschi featuring on vocals throughout 3 or 4 of the shows a year before her and Derek formed the Tedeschi Trucks Band. So just an absolute amazing list of guest spots. Not even mentioning a couple of the headliners, as early in the run was the famous Trey and Page sit-in, as the Fish Brothers took the stage, covering I Know You Rider by the Grateful Dead into Elizabeth Reed in one of the all-time classic Beacon sit-ins. And then there were 2 nights of Clapton, where it was rumored Clapton would show up for a night. He ended up playing 2, pretty much doing the whole Layla album over the couple of days, Key to the Highway, an amazing Any Day with Susan on vocals, and then all ending with another one of the all-time legendary Beacon sit-ins, where Bobby and Phil opened up set number 2 with a sugary, I Know You Ryder Franklin's Tower segue that set the Beacon on fire after Chuck Leavell returned with the boys to sit in the first set, mind you. All right, so you get Chuck Leavell in the first set, and then Bobby and Phil for the epic sugary Ryder Tower segue with the Allman Brothers at the Beacon to close down the March of '09 run that began with Lee Von Helms and continued with Eric Clapton and the guy from Blues Traveler, as well as many more. So just an absolutely amazing run in '09. And then, of course, I guess there was also the 2014 Allman Brothers run, which, of course, started in March, ended in October, and ended the 45-year touring career of the Allman Brothers with their all-time last show, I guess, with your boy Big LW in attendance, but I guess a show that was originally scheduled to take place, their annual March run. However, the band already announced that their last show would be after the summer tour, okay? So the March run were going to be their last New York City shows, all right? Got myself a ticket for the last New York City Allman Brothers show. However, in the middle of the 2-week run, Greg gets sick. All right, shows get postponed to October, thus being the all-time last Allman Brothers shows. All right, the 4 shows that were postponed, as well as they add 2 more, so a total of 6 shows. To end the Allman Brother touring career. On the way as well, mind you, I did make it to Peach Fest for the last Allman Brother Peach Festival appearance as well, all right? As well, made it to 4 of the last 6 shows at the Beacon, including the final night with your boy Big LW, as well as my main man Cena, who was actually with me at the Dylan show as well, that I will eventually get to. But me and my main man Cena and our good friend Jen, who was able to use her beauty and charm to scalp a relatively cheap ticket, which me and Cena split the cost of, all right. Me and Jen entered the venue with Jen having her own ticket, okay. I enter with the one ticket that Jen and I had purchased with Cena. Cena and I had purchased through Jen being able to haggle down to something reasonable, right? Cena sneaks into the smoking section outside the back of the Beacon, where I take my ticket and now Jen's ticket, all right, out to the smoking section, where they don't re-scan your tickets. However, they give a physical check of your ticket, all right, to let you back in the venue through the smoking section, all right. So essentially we stubbed in Cena with Jen's extra ticket, where I went out into the smoking section with 2 valid tickets. Cena had snuck in, hopped the fence into the smoking section. All right. We used the one ticket that we had purchased, as well as our friend's Jen ticket, to stub Cena in through the back entrance, smoking section entrance. And 3 people shared 2 seats for the last Allman Brother concert, the 3-set affair ending after 1 o'clock in the morning with the epic whipping post Trouble No More, and the all-time greatest concert experience for your boy Big LW, and that was the legend of how we snuck in to the Beacon for the last Allman Brothers show. And now, I guess, 5 years later, like I mentioned, me, your boy Big LW, and my good friend Cena, sans our good friend Jen, have made it all the way back to the Beacon for Bob Dylan and the Thanksgiving Run residency. So I guess to finally give you after the famed, I guess you really can't, however, enter the Beacon without a proper context of the history of the Allman Brothers with the venue. All right, so I guess with that proper context in mind, we will actually get you in to the Bob Dylan show at the Beacon, where on this night, at least, we truly did get just an absolutely amazing show. Just a phenomenal set list, just an all-time set list, one long set from Bob. And I guess, as you know, like I mentioned earlier, sometimes a reputation for, celebrating a couple of the hits mixed in with a lot of the more Bob Dylan, dark tracks from the catalog. However, really, truly, just, a greatest hits kind of set list, right, where he opened up, I guess, in honor of Robbie Robertson, like I said, in the whole Thanksgiving feel, and the band he opened up plugged in, much like the Newport Folk Fest in 1965, where Bob Dylan and his band, the band, changed rock and roll history by Dylan plugging in. And this night at the Beacon, Bob opened up with an electric "Things Have Changed." All right, and then just get this for a run. He goes from "Things Have Changed," electric, all right, onto the piano for "It Ain't Me, Babe," Highway 61, "Simple Twist of Fate." All right. As well throughout the set, we have a masterpiece, "Make You Feel My Love," a Lenny Bruce, "Girl from the North Country and Not Dark Yet," "Serve Someone Closer," and a "Ballad of a Thin Man," and "Takes a Lot to Laugh," and "A Train to Cry" encore. Just absolutely amazing set list, and as well, I guess, compared to other Dylan shows I've seen, much more traditional kind of arrangements, as most of the songs were pretty easily recognizable anyway. Of course, some changes, and he did have some fun with the arrangements and presentation, but more traditional than other shows I've seen. But really, all in all, just an amazing diversity of why Bobby rules. Certified legend, rock star swag, even at 80. All right, as he hits the stage kind of dressed like an old mariachi singer, all right, with the kind of, cowboy, Mexican cowboy kind of suit with super slick white boots. All right. The backing band, however, kind of more of like a Dick Tracy side character, 1930s hitman kind of vibe. All right. A very simple stage presentation, mostly setting up kind of bowl lamp lights, rotating between, of course, on that classic beacon curtain, but kind of rotating between the bowl lamp lights, and then at times kind of, forest lights, or, tiger striped kind of lights, or starfall lights, all on the backdrop of the curtain, like I said. A very simple and mellow stage setup, but very appropriate for Bob, who doesn't exactly ham it up with the crowd or use a ton of energy throughout the set. Mostly playing piano, occasionally, mostly playing piano, occasionally stumbling around, posing and soaking up adulation from the crowd. All right, in a very, very rock star fashion, I might mind you, in a very, minimalistic approach. Nobody stands like a rock star, harder than Dylan, who, like I said, does so little else on stage when he kind of just gets up and stands there. The place goes apeshit, which is pretty hilarious. But, like I said, mostly on piano, however, does show off the extreme diversity in musical talents as he goes from piano, a couple of tracks on guitar, like I said, a couple of ripping harmonica solos, right? He sings, he does beat poetry, as I guess sing is kind of, in the context of Dylan, which again, we're talking literally some of the wordiest, most complex songs ever written, and like an entire catalog of them, which is definitely kind of Greg Dylan's, I'd say, greatest impact to the world of music is as a writer, which is kind of why I always hate kind of the old, like, Dylan can't sing, stereotypical hack argument, because first of all, like, he absolutely can sing, right? He just often chooses not to, right? But that's because you can't really, like, belt out note for note a 9-paragraph epic of, like, just the wordiest, like I said, it's, just songs that aren't meant to be sung. They're meant to kind of be, like, spoken, more beat poetry style. So he gives you a lot of that kind of, almost hip-hop, I gotta be honest. As well as he kind of looks like an old kind of hip-hop head somehow. He's got the swag in some regards of, like, an old hip-hopper, I'd say. But he's more, it's kind of more, poetry than sing-alongy. Anyway, however, definitely can sing, right, especially in the key of Dylan. But usually, his, like, cadences and, afflections are really more kind of meant to, like, accentuate the poetic nature of his work, as opposed to just be belting out the hook like Ariana Grande, all right, or somebody that's a more, a singer. Bob Dylan can sing, but he's not a singer, so you don't come to necessarily see him sing. However, he'll catch you off guard, and he'll give you a couple of verses of beautiful song, mixed in with, like I said, weird, beatnik, chanting and rhyming as, kind of the other, Dylan lyrical trademark. But, all in all, he can sing, as was evident on A Beautiful Not Dark Yet. The vocals really shined, at times the piano really shined, especially on Feel My Love, I'd say. Amazing piano solo, just an absolute beautiful, Make You Feel My Love, like I said, just a blistering harmonica solo on Masterpiece, and again, only being half sarcastic, as really was an all-time harmonica, and I gotta get down to the book, because he appeared to be doing a one-handed harmonica solo as well at a time, so my mind was blown. Although the backside of the orchestra couldn't exactly tell what the hell was going on. So I'm pretty sure, however, one-handed harmonica solo on Masterpiece, but a great harmonica work there. Great blistering electric guitar, like I mentioned, on The Things Have Changed opener as well. Coming out to kick off the encore with an amazing guitar solo on Ballad of a Thin Man. All right. The show closed, like I mentioned, on a super cool, kind of different, funky arrangement of Serve Someone was a real highlight with the arrangement there. So all in all, just an amazing, amazingly diverse Dylan show. As he sang, he mumbled, He laid down some blues. He whimsically tickled the ivory, and as well showed the stoic charisma of an absolute rock icon. And it really was just an amazing show, I guess, especially if you're a Dylan fan, as you have to be a Dylan fan. After the show, actually, a girl sitting in front of us, there was a couple sitting in front of us, and the girl turned to us after the show, kind of as we were leaving, and looked at me and Cena and said, she was like, well, you guys seem to be pretty into the show. Can I ask you, did you understand anything that he was saying? Which I guess was kind of a little bit of a nod to the fact that if you weren't like extremely familiar with the Dylan catalog, it might have lost a lot of its charm. As and again, just so much of the fun of the show is just watching Bob Dylan. So if you're not a big Dylan fan, as well, just musically as well, you're not necessarily you're getting 80-year-old interpretations of some of his classic works, so not exactly, as heard on the album, like I mentioned. But if you're a fan of the man and you're a fan of the catalog and the work, just an absolutely amazing show. All right, if I had to give it a Netflix and chat style review, I'm going Rudy's Dad.
This is the most beautiful sight piece of ice you've ever seen.
Yes. So I guess consult the last 10 minutes of a Netflix and chat to find out what the hell I'm talking about there. However, as high a praise as a show can be given, Rudy's Dad, and I'm giving it. I'm going Rudy's Dad on Bob at the Beacon. A viscerally joyous experience, and an amazing night, and another amazing Big LW eyewitness account, concert experience, and concert review here on Big LW's Jammin' World podcast. And I guess being that was just one of the 10 shows of the Thanksgiving Run residency, definitely let me know about the great experience you had seeing Bob at the Beacon this November, or any other great
WEFUNK. We funk.